hello, EKN Nation. My voice is still not back yet. Nationals, yeah, it is. This is going to cap things up. My name is Rob Howden. That is, of course, David Cole. Yeah, you can hear my voice is still. My voice was good on Super Sunday, but it's still a little crackly now. We are obviously going to wrap up our coverage from this year's Superkarts USA SuperNationals. This is the debrief. It'll be two of them, actually. One today and one tomorrow, live, of course, on YouTube and Facebook. And David, I don't know about you. I think I've got 3 10-hour completely REM-filled drooling sleeps. So I'm feeling good right now, actually. I got back to the gym today. It was great.
No, I haven't quite got there yet. And as you can tell, my voice is a little up and down as well, too. I don't think it's so much. It's just the dryness that's out there. It's the smoke inside the casinos. I think that's part of it, too. Not the great air filter system in the hotel room. So, and also a lot of yelling and screaming Sunday night at the bars and dance clubs. So yeah, it's it was a good time as always, as the SuperNats is. And it's almost better because now I probably actually enjoy Thanksgiving because, it's Thursday. We would have been going into Thanksgiving today. So I'm probably going to enjoy it next week a little more than normal. And actually, like you said, get some of those good sleeps and enjoy the big meals that we do have there on Thanksgiving.
Indeed, folks. This is episode 121 of our debrief, all part, of course, our EKN trackside coverage. It started with our Outlap podcasts the week before the SuperNats. It is Thursday, November the 16th. We got a couple of guests joining us here today from Australia. Matthew Waters just got home, actually, after his big win in KA100 Master. He'll be with us. And Robert Bujdoso, who was one of the stars of our Master Shifter category here. Today in the show, it is Master Shifter, KA100 Master, Mini and Micro. We will do our full race review on that one. This edition, though, of the debrief is brought to you by Acceleration Kart Racing. Acceleration Kart Racing has everything you need to go racing, from tires to helmets. They have a great website for you to order from, and kart racers ready to pick up the phone and answer your questions 6 days a week. With over 20 years of kart racing under their belts, Acceleration Kart Racing has the experience to help you succeed on the track. You can rely on them to get the parts you need when you need them. Make Acceleration Kart Racing your go-to source for everything karting. Head to www.shopakr.com. All right, DC, again, this was SuperNats 26. We rolled past the silver anniversary last year, 26 running out of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We've been there before, obviously, a couple of years ago. The event taking place November the 8th to the 12th, as you mentioned, a week earlier, because obviously Formula One dominating Las Vegas here this coming weekend. I was happy. They came in and stole our weekend. So I was happy to see it rain on them last night, because we did not get that day. We had perfect weather the entire time, essentially.
I was wondering why all the pictures from last night were wet. I thought they were just hosing everything down. I didn't realize it rained. So that's a good thing. I was just talking with somebody, I believe it was Caleb Ineski, who was talking about that 2013 year. I had the picture of the David on some of the people's chests, and he got back to me finally on that after, a week and a half, whatever. But yeah, that 2013 year that it rained every day but Super Sunday, it was probably one of the more miserable SuperNationals we've ever had that I can recall, because I've been going since 2004.
Yeah, it was. We were shaking so much in the booth. It was so cold that you had a headache because of your hangover, but your whole body ached from shivering all day long because it was cold, it was windy, and it was raining. It was horrible.
Yeah. Well, and we did have some wind Wednesday, Thursday, kept you guys up in the booth really cold, as you're broadcasting, because you got nowhere to go. There was nothing blocking it. And most of the time the wind was coming right at you. So it did kind of keep you guys a little chilly. It was a little especially chilly towards the end of the night as well. But once we got into the heat races on Friday, the weather turned out to be perfect. It got even warmer, I think, on Super Sunday, where, it was warm enough to be able in shorts and t-shirt all day long.
Yeah, listen, I wore long underwear every day but Super Sunday, because I wasn't wearing super thick pants or jeans, so it was cold. So
it's not like you're sitting in the sun like photographers are or the racers are and stuff like that.
We stood in the shade the entire time. You're right, 100% about that. Just anybody, all those of you who are watching right now, feel free. This is interactive. If you have questions, if you have any comments, questions for our guys, whatever you want to do, feel free. We'll bring some of those in here. We like it to be interactive here on Facebook and YouTube. David, let's go by the numbers. Obviously, we're going to do this. We'll jump into a quick break. We'll come back and dive into our first race reports with Master Shifter. 520 entries all told. Is that what you added up with all the? Because people will say how many the entries are. We always add up how many people have qualified, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. There were some no-shows. There were no-shows there.
Bunch of walk-ups
but there were a bunch of walk-ups as well. So yeah, we ended up with 520, which, is the second best out of the last 4 events. And when you look at it in terms of having only 9 categories, it's probably one of the best ones we've had, for 9 categories. I didn't pull that up. I'll do that at commercial break, but 520 compared to 586 last year when we had 10 categories. And so you subtract 40 from that, we're about 20 drivers off, or 20 entries off of that, if you were to calculate that. So really, really solid numbers. You look at Micro Swift and Mini Swift, they were restricted to only one group. So they maxed out at 45 for Micro and 48 for Mini Swift. And then the other 2 categories, KA100 Master and Master Shifter as well too. An amazing total of 47 in Master Shifter, where 4 years ago when we had, obviously the Pro 1, Pro 2, and the 175 situation going on, we only had 15 Master Shifters. So to go from that to 47 in 3 editions of the SuperNationals is outstanding, and shows I think we're in the right path now. I think, you look, we'll talk Pro Shifter obviously tomorrow, but the amount of shifters that we had at the SuperNationals, it made you feel like Shifter Kart Racing is back again,
Well, again, listen, that's what we talk about. Superkarts USA, and this event, the SuperNationals, was born on shifters for so many years, up till I think Sam Boyd Stadium. It was nothing but shifters for the first number of years, right? It's the Superkarts USA was a shifter only organization for the longest time. It wasn't even there was no juniors at a lot of the races either. So it's there now, obviously, as we know. But yeah, 520 entries all total, and every one of the categories we're talking about today, which were single classes, all blowing past essentially the 44 mark, which is the max. They always go by at least 4 or 5 more because cancellations will bring them back. So obviously 45 for Micro, 48 Mini, 45 KA100 Master, and 47 Master Shifter. That's fantastic. That's big. Awesome.
It is. And again, KA Master is only in its second year, 48 last year, 45 this year. It is a category that, if there was more time in the day and more time in the week, we could see that grow along with Mini Swift as well too. But, I almost like to cap, it's like, hey, you got to be serious about this and get in and be part of the entry. And we saw really good competition in all 4 of these categories.
No doubt. All right, folks, our first quick little commercial break here. If you're watching live, it'll just be a quick little break. We're going to do this so we can put commercials in for the podcast that'll come out. All of our shows here will be available in podcast format later on that you'll be able to listen to, of course, on the drive into work. So yeah, stay with us. When we get back, we will dive into the race report. Back once again here for this edition of the Debrief, our first of 2 for the Superkarts USA SuperNationals 26 from Las Vegas. My name is Rob Howden, of course, joined by David Cole. This edition of the Race Report is brought to you by Factory Karts. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by 4-time SuperNational champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at their Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product like Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. All right, so good to roll right in from Factory Karts. Obviously, it's starting out as essentially a shifter kart package that Billy's then built, of course. The single speed and the cadets, you name it. As we do in these debriefs, I'll throw the headline out and David can start filling things in. Here's the headline for Master Shifter. Karting legend adds SuperNationals triumph to CV.
Going in, you look at our predictions, the two of the 3 of us had this guy winning it going in. And, a lot of people, because of who he is, multi-time world champion David Foray, he was going to be the guy to beat. That was kind of the benchmark going into this, and qualifying certainly showed us that. As Foray, a 4-time world champion, a 1-time gearbox champion, and now this year's KZ2 Masters World Cup champion as well, put down a 42.493 in qualifying. He cleared the field by nearly 0.3 of a second, and that was over Jordan Musser, Robert Bujdoso, Vincent Cassard, and Scott Priesty. So it was an amazing lap put in on this very fast circuit that he told us in our interview after qualifying. It scared the living bejesus out of him. I didn't say it in that quote, but that kind of quote, but it was pretty gnarly. I mean, again, you're hitting 95 miles per hour down the long straightaway. We'll talk more about that later, but it was certainly a track you had to be a little bit crazy in order to be fast, and he was certainly that. The downside to qualifying, and was kind of a big factor through the heat races, not only for this category, but for another, he received a 4-position penalty for just the opening heat race because he had no number on his weight. That was something Superkarts USA was cracking down on throughout the event. KA100, I think, was the first category up to qualify, and it was a little bit of chaos in that scale house and tech barn and the penalty room as well for those categories. So we were kind of, again, it was as the heat races were going about, we didn't know about the penalties until you get the grid, and we get the grid, and Foray is going from position 5, and so it kind of left everybody confused. I think you guys were talking about that. Yeah. And it caught him off guard as well. I think there was a little bit of a delay as to what was going on with that. So that allowed Jordan Musser to go from the pole position, and he was able to win the opening heat race ahead of Bujdoso, and Foray getting up to 3rd. Musser came back and won the second heat race, but that was because Foray never made the racetrack. Had a mechanical issue on the grid. I believe you guys said it was clutch related.
We were trying to figure it out. I don't think we ever did find out exactly what it was. The thing was it was rolling back and forth, so it wasn't locked up. But yeah, whatever it was, they were working on trying to get they're grabbing the clutch like crazy. I don't know what it was.
So it essentially kind of put Musser in the Birdcat seat with 2 heat race wins. Foray came back in heat number 3 to be able to score the victory over Robbie and Jordan. So it set up the grid for Musser, Bujdoso, Brian Keck, who had an issue in qualifying as well too. I believe he wrecked trying to pass somebody, so he got a fast lap in. Actually ended up finish, I think, in 9th in qualifying.
He only got 2 laps in. Yeah, he only got 2 laps in qualifying.
Yeah. Yep. Worked his way up into 3rd for the grid for the main event. Last year's winner, Antonio Pizzonia Jr., went 4th, and then Vincent Cassard, who had a really solid week on the CRG, starting in the 5th spot. So Davide Foray started P12 for the main event.
Yeah, he was on the tear really quickly coming through out of the gate. Of course, Jordan Musser got that great start. He was able to pull away and actually gap. I think it was almost 3 seconds, like 2.9 seconds. I think was the biggest gap at one point. And it appeared like it could have been over, right? This is it. We're done. And there's Brian Robson just saying a locked up gearbox for Foray. So indeed, I think for the most part, people thought, Musser's leaving. But then all of a sudden, Foray started putting down purple laps, right? 0.6 seconds. He was closing a gap down very quickly. Eventually got onto the rear bumper of Musser.
Yeah, the gap, that's why I noted in qualifying, it was nearly 2 to 3 tenths a lap that he was gaining in the race, closing in on Musser. And we're all thinking, I know I was talking with Jeff Deskins and some other people standing around me before I went out and shot photos. I think Musser's just keeping the tires cool. We thought he was just into a rhythm. Wasn't going to push it too hard, had a massive lead. I mean, why would you push your cart hard like lead. That when you got a 3-second lead and you got a multi-time world champion coming behind you? So, but like you said, Foray got to his bumper, made the move, I want to say coming onto the straightaway, and that was it.
Yeah, that way he essentially pulled away, and you were wondering whether or not maybe Musser could fight, mount one more charge, just make that one dive bomb move. He was never close enough down into 1. He was actually, I think, there coming down into 1. But never coming down back into 9, where you have to open up so wide to get on the straightaway you can make that move to the inside. Wasn't able to make it happen, David. In the end, as we know, Foray walked away. It ended up being a 0.5 second was the victory. Musser did come home to just a second. I know, tough for a guy who has wanted to win this race for so many years. Brian Keck, overall, a great run. He was super fast. Robert Bujdoso, as we said, great run in for him. Obviously his debut as a senior driver. We'll talk more about what he had done. Yeah, as a master's driver. And then Pizzonia, I think we all expected him to be more of a factor throughout the entire weekend. He was there, but he was never really a really aggressive factor up front at all, bringing into the heat races too.
Yeah, well, not to the level that 4A and Musser was. I think Robbie might be able to give us some more insight because I think he went wheel to wheel with him a number of laps, heat races and main events. So, but yeah, it just didn't quite have that leading pace that we saw last year at the Rio. So it was interesting to see that because he was essentially the guy to beat on Super Sunday last year. So, but yeah, a pretty cool top 5, at least for me. When you look at predictions.
So hold on. We have Robert Bujdoso waiting in the sidelines.
Yeah. Do you want to go to him first?
No, we're not going to bring him on.
Okay.
We're not going to bring him on yet. I just want to let people know he's coming. So we got questions for him.
No.
We'll talk more about what was going on.
Yeah.
But yes, we are going to do our predictions. If you watched our Outlap podcast, we all came up with our own predictions of who we thought. I obviously didn't do enough research. The boys were a little bit better than I was, but I did win one class today in this deal. But yeah, David, I was feeling so confident after when I saw, like, I did really well in this one here.
Right.
And so I ended up with 8 points, but you smoked me in this class.
I smoked you and Nate pretty good because this was the highest class total that we had because I correctly picked the winner. I correctly picked second place. I correctly picked third place, and I correctly picked fourth place. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 drivers in the top 5 in their correct positions gave me a total of 18 points for this class alone. That's more than half of what you scored last year. So that
wow.
Last year, let's see. Last year, our totals were more than you scored last year. You scored 16 points last year.
Total?
I will say total. We did a whole lot better. A whole lot better than last year. But I scored in one class more than what you scored last year.
You're harsh.
So Rob scored 8 points on this category. You had the winner and 3 top 5s.
Yeah,
and then Nate only had 3 top 5 drivers, no positions correctly. So
all right, well, there's more.
That is the breakdown on that. Yeah, that is the breakdown on that.
Let's get away from you and I and our feud and bring in Robert Bujdoso. So, hey, David, it's not Bujdoso anymore.
I say it that way.
We've been corrected. It's Bujdoso. Or something close to that.
I say it how I spell it. I keep telling you
I know,
that.
but listen, you're from Michigan already. You don't have to be a complete hillbilly all the time.
All right.
Robert, welcome to the show, my friend.
What's going on, guys?
Let's listen. You're a couple days away from the SuperNats. How are you feeling right now? We talked about the fact we've been sleeping like crazy. You were actually out there pounding laps all week long. How's the body feel?
Honestly, not as bad as I anticipated. To be quite frank, I think the hardest part of the whole trip was just to drive back home.
Right.
More than anything else. So yeah, 32 hours for me. So I just made it back yesterday.
In the end, you had run back in 2015 on the podium in the S2 category. Let's talk about your debut here, your first year in Master Shifter. Obviously the competition was high. We knew you'd be kind of up front in the middle of it there. Was it everything you would have kind of hoped it was going to be?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think, not driving really quote unquote full time since 2015. I mean, I did a few races this year, just some one-off stuff to kind of have a little bit of fun. And then I had the itch. I'm like, why not? Let's do Vegas. And I did it. So here I am now. But yeah, I mean, from a competition standpoint, I was actually, when people say Masters, like they don't, you don't know what to expect, but it's pretty serious, man. It's not no slouch competition by any means.
Well, in this one here, we talked about it a lot in the broadcast. You're racing against a former world champion, the reigning, KZ Masters champion, a Formula One driver, and then you throw Jordan Musser in, who's won almost everything you can in terms of Master Shifter Kart Racing here in the country. It's a pretty stacked field, right? When you look at it.
Oh yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, but by all means, I mean, it's and I heard you guys saying how the numbers grew from 15 to 47.
Yeah,
something like that. Which, and put it in perspective, that's remarkable.
It's crazy.
So it's without a doubt.
First guy we've talked to in the broadcast regarding the track. Overall, obviously there was a change in the track when it was needed. Obviously got a little sketchy there at the end of the straightaway. What were your thoughts on the track overall?
I think the track, just based on what they had to work with, they had a lot of length, they had a lot of width from a pit area to work with. I mean, I thought the track was unique from that standpoint. I mean, I think we had to use first gear like 5 times or 4 times. Yeah, and there's not many tracks where you use first gear that many times, let alone any times.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, actually, I think we even caught a crack in the axle from using first gear so many times.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah. That I was going to ask that because that's asking a lot out of the power, the whole drivetrain, right? Let's be real.
Yeah, of course,
whatever it may be, right?
Without a doubt, I mean, from a technical standpoint, I don't think it was that technical, but I think it was just difficult to to go from 97 miles an hour to 25 and 15 feet, whatever it is. It's not easy.
And you guys were kind of on the brakes already on the turn into the kink, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Like you see you guys kind of backing it in there. It was wild to watch.
Yeah, and then you saw during the race, a lot of times when people would just overshoot it by accident, and then they still get somewhat of a halfway decent run out of the turn one. How that happens, I don't know.
Was there a part of the track that you liked the most? Because I know that a lot of the passes you made were these big diving lunges into turn 3. The first of the two hairpins, the right hand. You were able to get in there and throw it in there a couple of times and get out.
I would say for sure turn 3, and then honestly, even the last corner, even though I sucked out of the last corner, I think it was just a very, because like David said, you got to open up a little bit to make that run onto the straightaway, but it was very technical, and the braking in the last corner, it was so bumpy. I mean, a couple of times I almost lost just under the brakes, just going into the last corner.
And you were taking it a bit differently. I know we mentioned that quite a bit in the broadcast. It seemed like guys were kind of rolling in. You were kind of diamonding it, like trying to come across a certain way. Was that something you did you thought was different than other drivers in front of you?
Yeah, from a certain standpoint. And, when you're with a pack, obviously you're a little more defensive. You don't want to open up so much. I think in qualifying, I probably should have opened up the entry a little bit better. I would have had a better run onto the straightaway, but I think that's more just me being more from a defensive side of things, if anything else.
Dave, you want to bring some of those questions in?
Yep.
Yeah, bring it in.
Right. So how sketchy was it going 3 wide into the last kink? Brian Robson's asking. If you don't know, Brian Robson's actually a wrench for John Crow, so got to see it probably firsthand.
I'm not gonna lie. In that heat race, when I saw Sketchy in front of me, I was like, "Son of a gun, man!" Like, and then not just that, but I was kind of nervous to pass him because we're obviously teammates. So and I know he needed the points, so I'm like, all right, well, I need the points too. So how do I not screw him, but still get ahead of him? But yeah, that was definitely a pucker moment without a doubt.
Yeah. So how was, because you've obviously worked with Scott Sketchy Barnes as a driver himself, but how was it being on the racetrack and being able to feedback back and forth, being in the same category?
Oh, I mean, honestly, it was priceless. I mean, we had, I think, a total of 4 Master guys under our tent. Sketchy being one of them, Larry Pegram being one of them, and Frank Rucco. All have a lot of experience underneath them, and it was really nice to have kind of lean on with tire pressures, gear ratios, things like that. I mean,
yeah, Larry had a really good run. We talked a lot about Larry. He was a kind of top 10 guy there, right around 9, 10, 11 for most of the weekend. He did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I think he started 6th going into the main event, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no stranger to top, no stranger to top speed, no stranger to backing it in. Right?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
AMA Superbike rider, right?
Well, and we've said Sketchy, but a number of these street racers or road racers such as Sketchy or Joe Rook or as you said, Larry Pegram and all these guys who are no afraid whatsoever. Do you think that racetrack kind of suited them a little bit more than say the racetrack at the Rio?
Well, I mean, Sketchy never finished the heat race, so. Sorry, Sketchy, but I think that bit you in the butt, man. Because honest to God, I mean, him and I had equal pace all weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so.
Hey, listen, and let's talk about the entire Magic Kart USA program. I know we'll talk more about AJ Myers tomorrow, and I felt like everybody under your tent had a really good weekend. Like you guys just seemed like you rolled in there, whatever it was, you guys rolled in there. You were out of the gate strong. You talked about the 4 guys you guys had in Masters. I feel like just overall, as a collective, you guys had a really good weekend.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this whole year we really had an opportunity to recruit some really good people for help, obviously, from the engine side of things, mechanics, the whole 9 yards, and I think the team is really starting to gel in terms of being comfortable with one another, really understanding how to give feedback, what to expect, things like that. And I think even, Talon Yalko has came a long way this year. I mean, he started 11th in the main event. And this is the guy that was in the LCQ last year. Just to put it in perspective, right?
Yeah.
Michael Riccio is another driver from Canada who's I think he's only 15 years old, and did a phenomenal job.
You could call Jakob maybe the most improved shifter car driver of the year.
Hands down.
You know what I mean? Like he's he's stood up and been in the middle of these big scraps with some big names. So it's
and be AJ at his home racetrack.
Valid point.
That too. Yeah.
Very valid point. I mean, also, they're putting in the work too, right? I mean, it goes hand in hand. I mean, I think people have this conception of, you want to get better, but they don't want to put the time in to getting better. And Marty and Talent really are putting the time to get better. So
question for you. Let's bring in McCaddy. McCaddy has a little thing here. Brian McCaddy. He watched all weekend long. Says great job to the Magic team and to Robbie Junior Master Bujdoso. feels like me when I first started Masters. The kid in the old man class. How old are you, Robbie?
I'm 30 years old.
So you're 30. So right on. I like the fact that you're there because we've seen this before. You come in, or some guys in the past have come in, whether it was a Rudolph at that point or Darren Elliott finally, whatever it was. Finally jumping in, a bunch of other guys come in, right? Because they're like, well, okay, if he's there and the level of competition is high enough, are we going to see more of you next year? That's the question.
On my 32-hour drive back, I was really debating.
A lot of time to think. Right?
I had a lot of time to think, man. I'm thinking like, son of a gun, 4A1, I mean, all these guys that did really well, hats off to everyone, obviously. I think I might come out again. It just depends on my schedule and what I have going on. I would love to be a part of Vegas again next year, but again, we'll have to run a racing team also, so it's kind of hard to drive and manage the team.
You're running the team. I will say this: it's so good to see guys like you come out and run, even if it's the one-off events. It just takes the level of everything up to a couple notches, which is fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything you would have changed going into the event, knowing now, like say preparation or anything that maybe differently that you would have done going into the event?
I did a lot of conditioning and working out from that standpoint. So for about I say a month and a half to a good month, I did 2 days of cardio and 3 days of working out. So 5 days of total work of actually exercising. And I actually lost 6 pounds by accident.
Damn, good for you.
Like didn't even know I did it until I was in Cincinnati for a test weekend with a driver. But I think I would have incorporated probably a little more like driving as opposed to just exercising, working out.
Well, listen, you can't discount your experience, the track time in Bermuda, Robert.
No,
we were out there in Bermuda. Street circuit race there. It might have been a 2:06. It might not have been very fast, but come on.
That's another event, man.
Wheels in motion.
I won everything in Bermuda and then lost in the last lap in the last 2 quarters ago.
Me too. I lost the first lap.
Oh my God.
We were both P2.
Jeez.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. So listen, so let's look at 2024. Just I don't kind of want to wrap it up with you. Who I say who do you want to thank for being able to be there? Was you guys? It was your team, the whole Magic team. But how you guys thinking about 2024? I know that it's still we're not quite to Thanksgiving. We haven't turned the page yet on next year, but you guys got to feel like you have a lot of momentum going into next season.
I mean, for sure, I mean, obviously we're always here to get better. We are working on a few things to kind of improve our program for going into next year and stuff. I really want to thank obviously our program with Sony Competition Engines, Flavio and Elizio. They did an outstanding job for us. I mean, Elizio flies in from Italy for all these events for us. He just works with us and our team. Wow. It's been a huge help this year. Obviously, Magic Kart, my brother, Peppo, my mechanic this past weekend, being Austin Williamson, Greyhound Seats, the team, Checker Motorsports. I mean, it's you can't put one person to thank. It's really everyone that's involved. So,
you guys attended a wedding, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah. So my mechanic got married. he got married, and then my girlfriend caught the flowers.
Oh,
there we go. That's good. That's good. Robert, you don't want to let that girlfriend get away anyway. She's awesome.
No, I know. I definitely lucked out with her.
There you go. Well, listen, Robert, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Great run for you. Obviously, you're in the hunt all weekend long. But thanks for taking the time to join us here on a Thursday night.
Yep, appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Robert Bujdoso, folks, from Magic Kart USA, definitely one of the powerhouses, David, Shifter Kart Racing here in the U.S. And talking about the fact of what AJ Myers has done, of course, Talon Yockel and other drivers they have underneath their program. Sketchy Barnes runs with them, as we know. Andy Rule. There's a number of drivers that run with them in that team. That they're powerhouses for sure, right?
Yeah. Real quick to answer a question, Gary Osterholt asking, what was the engine brand breakdown? 2 175s, John Crow and Luis Quiones, the Pro Tour champion. They were the only 2 drivers on 175s.
There you go. Yeah, well, maybe we should see. We'll have do you have the stuff for tomorrow for KZ? Whether or not we ever like who was on what engine? Miami, Vortex.
No. Well, I mean, it goes off. I don't know if it's correct on the entry list.
We would go off the entry list, guys, and it's never. Yeah, it's never right. Yeah. So, all right. So, listen, quick break when we get back because we have another guy waiting in the wings. It is just past the noon hour, we think, down in Australia. He just got home, got a bit of jet lag, but we are going to have, when we do KA100 Master, the winner, Matthew Waters, is going to be joining us here today. So, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. More to come here on the debrief. Welcome back to the debrief for this year's Superkarts USA SuperNationals 26. My name is Rob Howden, joined, of course, by David Cole as we were trackside with Nate Dean and Betsy Gallagher throughout the entire week. Great job by Nate and Betsy in our social media. Man, they killed it with all the social media content we put out, all the work that was done there. We're going to jump back into the race report brought to you by Factory Karts, and we're going to go to KA100 Master. David, here's the headline. Fill us in. Waters becomes second winner of category. I know you're just wringing your hand on this one here.
I just love it. I love this story. This story is great, and that's why I'm happy to have him on so we can get more depth into it. And again, it's because it's our category. You know, this is our. I know you raced it last year, but it's Masters racing. It's what we do. So we know all these drivers. Well, I know most of them. You might not know some of them.
What are you talking? I just don't know. I didn't know that Matthew was coming.
Anyway. One driver we've always been watching, Laurentiu Mardan, a former USPKS champion, and is just all quick every time. He was the only driver to really actually beat Mike Rollison on the racetrack this year. So Mardan came out hot, did a 49.104 to set fast time in qualifying, edging out Ben Cooper, who was everybody's favorite going into the weekend by just 0.02 of a second. Kip Foster, 4-time winner at the Superkarts USA SuperNationals. In the 3rd spot, Casey Cook, one of the great stories as well in the category, 4th in the order. And then Matthew Waters, rounding out the Fast 5. But much just like Master Shifter, we had an issue for Kip Foster, who had a broken rear bumper in qualifying when he came in. Thus, that moved him to the back of the field for the opening heat race.
Yeah.
The tail of the field. So again, a meatball flag and qualifying. We'll talk about it later, but the penalty just doesn't seem right. So we'll get into that later.
Yeah, you and I aren't up for that for sure.
So Foster had to start that race in the back, but it was Ben Cooper, went unchallenged in both of the opening heat races. I think mostly in the first one, it was just a lot of heavy racing for position. I don't recall the gap. I want to say it was 5 seconds after 10 laps in the opening heat race.
They went hardcore behind him. Yeah.
Hardcore. Ahead of Bobby Kelly in second, Holler in third, who actually...
Holler's a great story. You find Holler's the guy that literally won a rental kart World Series from TB Kart and winning the rental kart program. Winning the rental kart program, he got the chance to come and run the SuperNationals with TB Kart and Race Lab. Yeah. So it was essentially his first 2-stroke race. This guy's a badass in a rental car program. And he was super fast all weekend long. We talked about him. But the highest he ran was 3rd in that heat race. But man, he was in the hunt.
He qualified 10th, so got his way up into 3rd because of all the crazy racing. Had a DNF on the Heat 2 and 14th on the Heat 3. So he started back in 18th for the main event. But again, Cooper winning the second heat race ahead of Waters. And Mardan dropping back to 3rd. That's something that was the story. Mardan kept falling back, didn't hold the pole position, but a lot of the top qualifiers didn't, to be honest. So this was kind of a trend in at least the single speed category.
But anyhow, it played out. If you had a good enough start from the outside of the front row, you could just really drive it in hard.
Yeah. And then in the 3rd heat, it was Kip Foster taking the victory ahead of Waters with Cooper in 3rd. And we talked to Cooper afterwards, and he said he tried something, didn't quite like it, didn't work out. Plus, he was trying to not run into Foster or Waters or anybody else and get any type of penalty. So he retained the pole position for the main event with Mardan on the outside now, the front row. Franco Cervelli came up from 7th in qualifying, was able to start 3rd in the main event and ended up being a big factor in the main event with Casey Cook and Bobby Kelly starting 4th and 5th. So in the main event, it actually became a 4-driver pack, included Mardan, Cooper, Foster, and Waters.
Yeah, it was a great pack. It was, and surprising to me because I think we all kind of figured that Cooper might be able to pull away a little bit, and he did here and there. But they, of course, that long 1,400 foot straightaway, man, you'd get a gap, and you could just get reeled right back in before it was all said and done. And let's be real, everybody behind Cooper kind of worked with him. Finally, were able to push him back a little bit, and they did what they needed to do because I think because we saw it with Bonilla. We'll talk about it tomorrow, right? In the X30 Pro category, where Bonilla pulled away, it got in front of a fight, and everybody else behind started scrapping. That never happened in Masters. I think Cooper probably could have pulled away had there been any kind of a scrap, but guys like Waters and everybody there kind of settled in and went to work. Well,
two Australians running together with Mardan kind of being the wild card, and actually it was Mardan who kind of lost the draft there towards the end. So it was So it was Foster and Waters that were kind of working together and were able to reel in Ben Cooper, no, it's Cervelli. Sorry, it was Cervelli up there. Not Foster. My apologies. It was Cervelli. That's I keep forgetting about him. So it was Crivelli. So it was two teammates with Waters and Cooper, but Cooper out front, and Crivelli was really quick.
The disruptor, as I always say. He was the one that was going to put himself in everywhere.
So I want to say it was Crivelli leading at the white flag. As they came into turn 1, Cooper made the move to the inside. They pushed wide. This allowed Waters to kind of from third just slip around the outside or inside of both of them and then be on the outside through that turn 2 kink and then be right into
Cooper,
it.
I think had it been somebody other than Waters, I don't think Cooper would have backed out.
Yeah, I think somebody. Yeah, there might have been a little bit more contact. I think there might have been just a little rub, but it was those two, and that was it. Because Crivelli kind of attacked on Cooper again, trying for that second spot, and essentially let Waters go to the checkered flag for the victory.
Yeah, in the end, Waters, Cooper, Foster, Cook, and Crivelli. Mardan was actually on the podium, was he not? And then did he get a DQ, right?
Yeah, it was a weight nut. So he did not have a second weight nut. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Yeah. And so that dropped him down. And Crivelli had I did not write that down in the script, but it was a penalty. I want to say it was a pushback. No, he drove down on somebody.
Okay.
So that was a incident on the racetrack. So penalty, knocked him down to only 5th, obviously with the disqualification from Mardan kept him in 5th. So, so Waters, Cooper.
We're going to talk about those guys, but I want to mention Casey Cook before we're done.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because obviously the cool factor of Casey's program, his Boost Foundation. Here's the guy that's out there with probably 30% lung capacity. He obviously battles cystic fibrosis. There's a lung transplant coming down the line. We're going to talk more about down the line about the GoFundMe to try to help him make sure that happens. But here's a guy that did all this training to get his lungs the way they needed to be. And I just saw him posted that. I didn't realize this on a 4-year-old go-kart. Too.
Yeah.
If you saw that on Facebook, on a 4-year-old go-kart, battling like he was in the middle of the fight all weekend long and finds himself on the podium. That was, to me, one of the feel-good stories of the week.
Yeah, qualified 4th. I only had one bad heat, started in 4th. It kept it clean, kept it out of trouble. Didn't quite have the pace to run at the front of the field, but a podium finish is still a great feeling.
Before we jump over to Matthew Waters, who's joining us live from Australia, David, let's wrap things up. Let's jump into the predictions here. This was much closer than the Master Shifter category.
It was 3 points for me, 2 for you, and 2 for Nate. So alls we had were top 5 finishers. So I had 3 top 5 finishers. You had 2, and Nate had 2. So we did not correctly pick anybody.
But Waters was
in the right position. But that 1 point for putting Waters in my top 5 is the difference to give me the number 1 spot in this category.
Speaking of the guy that messed up my entire picks for this category, let's bring Matthew Waters from Australia, running for Rollison Performance Group. Bring him in here. Matthew, I appreciate you joining us. I know that you just flew home, you just landed, kind of a thing. You got the jet lag, but man, listen, jet lag doesn't hurt that much when you've just come back from winning the biggest races in the U.S. Let's put it that way.
No, thank you. Hi guys, by the way.
Good to have you.
You know, it does help. I'm not gonna lie. It's a good feeling.
When you came in, what were your expectations? You're with the fantastic team, Rawlson Performance Group. I raced for them last year. You were essentially in my go-kart that I drove to 19th last year. You were able to drive it to P1, so that makes a lot of sense. But what were your expectations? What were your expectations coming in?
I knew we were going with a good team. I mean, Mike and the guys at RPG are very professional. They've got all the equipment and all the data we need to hopefully do well. I think we were hoping that, you know, if we had the right equipment, we could somewhat be up there in the top 5. But you know what they gave me was excellent. So, you know, no complaints from my side of the equipment that they were able to provide.
I don't have a really intimate knowledge of all the tracks and the layouts of the tracks down in Australia. This was obviously, I would assume, because for all of us here, it was very, very different. What were your thoughts on the racetrack and its very unique layout in terms of the long straightaway and really not a lot of technical aspects?
Yeah, I mean, I've never raced on a track like this with barriers. I mean, all the tracks I've raced, whether here in Australia or overseas, are proper racetracks. So it was something to learn. You know, you're getting close to barriers. You come around the next lap and someone's hit the barrier and the barrier's slightly moved position. Sometimes it can get a bit, you know, crazy out there, but it was definitely something I had to learn. I think at the start of the weekend, Mike said, just make it to the final, you know, bide your time. So I sort of stayed away from the barriers early in the weekend, probably more than I should have.
Yeah.
And you just got to build that confidence to get closer to them, because it's a very different type of racetrack.
Indeed. Listen, for people that don't know you, like myself, that didn't know you well, that didn't pick you like I should have, can you give us some insight into your karting experience? What kind of background? How long have you been racing for?
Yeah, so this is my 26th year of racing. So wow. I started in 1998 when I was 8 years old. I think I did about a year of practice before that, and I've raced every year since. I mean, we've raced overseas a few times, never in the US. We've raced in New Zealand. I did the World Championships in Macau, the Winter Cup in Italy. But yeah, this was the first time in the US. So
what was the motivation? What was the tipping point for you to say, yeah, I'm going to run the SuperNationals this year? Why not?
Well, it's I mean, we watch it on YouTube every year. It's one of the biggest races in karting in the world, and it's just the way it's run and the close racing. You know, we watch it every year. So we thought this year, let's give it a go. You know, I did a lot of practice and racing this year. So I thought, if any year, now's the time.
So okay, so let's go a little further. Your first trip to the SuperNats. Overall, would you tell all your friends back in Australia you have to go do this race one time? How was the overall experience?
Yeah, it was excellent. I think from the first day I got there, walking into the team at RPG, I mean, it's insane, you know, to see how big these teams are, the new equipment they have. I think I was probably the happiest I've been in a long time. You just feel like a little kid in a candy store. Just
I know how you feel.
When you, yeah. So it was a good experience, and you know, I even said, we were talking to the team, I said, regardless of the result at the end of the weekend, I mean, this has been an insane experience, you know.
I want to dive a little bit more into your background, because the whole reason I found you was, okay, I need to find is he a KA racer? What engine experiences have you had in the past? Like, what categories have you run, and have you been running the KA since it was brought to Australia?
Yeah, so since the KA was brought to Australia, I've been running that. I guess I've been racing for quite an amount of years, and I thought the KA, it's a relatively simple engine. You know, you don't have a radiator, no water to change, so you can change the motors fairly quickly. So it's a nice engine to run. But when I was younger, I used to race we had Yamahas here, Yamaha J and Clubmans. So I did a lot of that racing. as I got older, I raced KF. So KF with the front brakes and KF2, I think it was. And then, recently just the KA engine. I did a bit of X30, but not too much.
Okay.
All right, let's talk a little bit about how your weekend rolled out. You mentioned the fact that, Mike Rawlson wisely said the same thing to me. Rob, just get to Sunday, stay out of trouble, which I did. And the reason why I got a top 20 was that I got the right instructions, slowly work your way closer to the barriers. As your week was going on and you started getting into qualifying and getting into the races, in your mind, did you finally start saying, hold on, I'm pretty good here right now. I'm overlaying my data with Ben Cooper and we're kind of close and I'm running in the top 5, top 3. Did you start thinking about, hey, I could win this thing? When did that happen?
Yeah. Probably I started to get a bit more comfortable. I think after we got a heat down, I didn't have a good first heat. I got turned around, but in the second heat, I could feel I had a bit of pace. I moved forward. And then I think before the final, I said, now let's give it a crack. I mean, there was little spots on the track that you needed to turn in that little bit earlier, get close to the barrier, give you a better run off. And I thought it's the final race, let's get a bit closer to the barriers. Yeah. Whatever will be, right?
The simple fact that it's the first time you've run a temporary circuit race at the SuperNats, and that particular layout with that high speed you guys had at the end of the straightaway, to me, that's super impressive, man. Yeah, you have my respect for sure on that one.
No, thank you. I think when we walked the track, I said, let's make this straight longer.
I know. It was so long.
The longer the straights, I mean, it just brings the race in so close, doesn't it? The slipstream was huge. Yeah.
Good question. You go, Dave. Go.
I was going to say, what you said is, we've talked about it because we do a lot of street racing here ourselves, both myself and Rob. And we always tell everybody the first time you go to a temporary circuit where there's walls, you got to drive at, say, 80, 85% to begin with and kind of ease your way in. I think you're a great example of that because by the time you get to the final, you're like, okay, 100%, I'm all in. Let's go and see where your chips fall. And I think it's it kind of emphasizes and backs up what we've been saying over and over again about racing temporary circuits.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see some of the people, and because we only have an hour between sessions in the morning, because they split morning and afternoon sessions, you don't get much time. So if you bend the chassis or bend an axle, you ain't got a lot of time to change it. So you've definitely got to bide your time.
So you come to the U.S., kick everybody's ass. You win a trophy. You're the champion. Are we going to see you back next year, or is this a one and done? Like, I've done this. Are you coming back?
I want to come back. I think even my old man who came across, he loved every minute of it too. Good. And he's going, are we going back? So, even more than the racing, we had a great experience in the team. And
good, I'm glad. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, listen, like I said, I raced for Rawlson last year at the SuperNats, and I ran them at the Summer Nats this year. It's a great operation. I think everybody knows how well Mike runs that team, so I have no doubt that he had a great experience there. Hopefully, we'll see you back next year, and I'm sure if your dad wants to come back, you guys will figure out a way. But listen, thank you so much for joining us. Who else do you want to thank? Did you have some sponsors to help put this together for you?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd like to thank Mike and the team at RPG. It was a great environment in there. Ben Cooper, I mean, I got to see his data after almost every race, and he helped me heaps. I mean, I can't even tell you how much he helped me being his teammate in that team. That was unbelievable. Our team back home, Darren, Jay, Benny and Mick, who came across with us, my family and friends, I got a lot of support from back home, so it was excellent. And to the two that were in my corner while I was over there, my dad and Dylan, I mean, I couldn't have done it without these two. It was amazing to be able to share the experience with them. So looking forward to hopefully being back.
Matthew, that's awesome. It obviously takes a village to have success at an event like that. And I can speak volumes of the same thing as you about Ben Cooper. Just the way when you sit down with Ben going over data, it's the way he presents the information. It's just it's calm, it's relaxed, you understand it. It was a huge thing for me last year too, for sure. And Ben's he's a consummate pro for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there were some races he got first and I got second, and it wasn't even an issue. He'd come over, he'd still help me. And I mean, I'm getting second to him, and he's still, happy to help me. So, credit to him.
It speaks volumes. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us, man. I know you just got home in Australia. It's into the afternoon there, but man, we really are appreciative that you took some time out of the day to chat with us.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matthew. Matthew Waters, folks, Rawls, a performance group driver this past weekend at SuperNationals from Australia. Obviously has a lot more experience than the research that David did. Is the research that I did not do. I did not realize he'd run the World Championships in KF. And
that
David,
part I didn't know.
You are.
I will say that part I didn't know.
So I will do more research next year. I'll take some time off.
Well, you're not going to have to, because you're going to pick him as a winner next year, because he's going to be back.
If he comes back, man, that was just impressive. Overall, it was impressive. Yeah, congratulations to Matthew Waters for sure.
It further backs up my claim that you had a top 5 kart with a top 20 driver.
I 100% had that. I will not. I've told everybody.
No, I just love repeating that. I love
437 last year. People were like, "Oh, I don't have enough power." I go, "I got lots of power. I just got no talent." Had I been able to warm my tires up correctly last year, I might have did a lot better. So, hey, listen, got
to be good on those cold laps.
Anytime you roll into RPG, you have a kart that can win the races. That's as simple as that. It happens. Yeah. It's quality equipment, and it's just I was able to drive it backwards to 19th or 18th, or wherever I ended up finishing. All right, folks, that's it for the KA100 Masters category. Another quick break. When we get back, time to talk about Mini Swift. Welcome back to this edition of the Debrief, the first of 2 that we'll have for this year's SKUSA SuperNationals. We're talking about 4 of the categories today, 5 tomorrow for a Friday evening show. Might have to crack open a beer for that one because it is Friday evening and the weekends come, David, at that point. And of course, Thanksgiving coming.
Well, Matthew's almost at the weekend. It's noon there, so he's got a couple more hours. He'll be celebrating all weekend long. Yeah,
100% he would be. I'd be drinking. Oh, this I was not a cup anymore, right? Mine was a cup, so it's that big beautiful trophy, but you can't really drink out of it. So, anyways, Factory Karts, the sponsor of our race report here. This edition of the Debrief. Let's go to Mini Swift, and let me throw the headline here for you, folks. Mini Swift headline. Vega becomes 13th different winner.
It's the Mini Swift Tag Cadet division has just produced a lot of great racing and a lot of former winners who have gone on and done amazing things. Patricio Ward, Logan Sargent, just a number of others that have just flourished in motorsports world and are continuing to as well.
I went back and looked at a couple old ones, Dave. Like there's like Stingray Rob's in there, Kyle Kirkwood's. I think Kirkwood's, maybe not Kirkwood. There's a bunch of guys that are
Stingray Rob. Yeah, they've raced. Yeah.
Dave, no, I'm looking at Cadet with Stingray. It wasn't Kirkwood. Oh. David Malukas. David Malukas was one. Was it in Cadet?
Didn't win.
Just raced in the
raced. Oh, the amount of names like I was talking with Austin Osborne. He showed me a result from one of the races, and just the amount of IndyCar and F1 drivers in that field alone is just insane. So, and even IMSA drivers and other motorsports drivers. So
let's roll in Vega.
This one was going to be. We thought it was going to be a crazy one. We thought there were going to be a number of drivers in the mix. I think our predictions were all very similar, but we knew it was going to be crazy, and we just didn't realize how crazy it was going to be. But Troy Ferguson, that was one name that didn't pop up, I don't think, in any of our predictions. And Troy Ferguson kind of slid under the radar on us. And we've seen him be fast. Nate had him in his top 5. Neither of us did. But
what I would say, I would have had him 6 to 10. You know what I mean?
And that's what I'm saying. But we haven't seen him do it at the Pro Tour. And so boom, he comes to SuperNationals, sets fast time in qualifying, put a 52.661, and was able to clear Royce Vega, his Bennick teammate, by 13 thousandths of a second. So the Bennick boys, they all, along with Marco Romero as well too, they all were very fast and were all within the hunt all weekend long. Max Cristia, who moved over to the Kart Republic brand for the weekend, ended up in 3rd in the session. And then Eli Tristan Crisson with RPG Cosmic on 4th, and then Travis Pettit in the Fast 5. So name that we were missing, and one that both of us picked, was Lucas Palacio.
It was missing until Sunday.
Exactly. But in qualifying, ended up in 24th. So we didn't see him at the front at all during the heat races. And in the 3 heat races, it was Troy Ferguson picking up the win in heat 1 and heat 3, Max Cristia picking up the one in the second. But all 3 heat races were very highly contested. A lot of passing, a lot of shuffling. You had Cristia finish second in the opening, but it was Vega who finished third, second, and second, which essentially gave him the pole position for the main event with those consistent finishes. Because Ferguson had 2 wins, but an 8th place finish dropped him to second in the points by just 1 point. So again, every position matters when it comes to heat racing at the SuperNationals.
Because the heat races, nobody wanted to get out and get into a pack and pull away. No. It was just like 8. It was 10 laps of balls out. Let's go. Last lap of the Indy 500. We're going for it. Like everybody.
Pretty much it.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Michael McGoy was in there as well, for sure.
Yeah, McGoy had 2 third place finishes and a 5th. So he started 4th alongside Cristia. Ferguson was able to go from pole to outside pole for the main event. And then Pettit still right there again in the 5th spot to start the main event with 3 4th place finishes. So main event kind of unfolds. Again, no different than what we saw in the heat race. I think at one point we had 12 drivers in the lead pack. I think at about the halfway point. Because nobody wanted to work together. Everybody's passing each other. You go down the straightaway, they pass into 1. They pass into 2. They pass into 4. 3, 4, 7,
5,
all the way at the end. Yeah, even 5 too.
Even 5,
because the left-hander going through the S's, they would be passing into there. So there was a lot of shuffling going around. So it was kind of crazy. But in the end, 3 drivers were able to break away. That was Vega. I'm trying to remember now. Vega, McGoy, and Baglin. Those were the 3 drivers that were kind of able. So Baglin, who started back, where did he start? 7th, had a bad second heat race. So was able, again, with all the craziness that was going, Baglin on the actual DAP chassis under the Trinity Karting Group tent. He was able to put him
with his tribute Senna
tribute. Yep, exactly. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So those are the 3 drivers up front. Essentially, it boiled down to the last corner. I mean, we knew it was going to happen. This is
I want to preface that, Dave. That's one of the things we saw in the heat races that we knew was kind of going to play out. Right, once we start heat racing, we figured out how the racing was, and it became very apparent, especially in the lower horsepower classes, that the over-unders and all the moves, everything that was going to happen in turn 9, the last big kind of left-handed hairpin with a short run to the checker flag, not a long run to the checker flag, short run to the checker flag out of the final lap. It wasn't all about the move to the inside. There were so many guys that would make a move, third place between the over-unders. I just want to preface that because that's kind of what we saw here, and we saw it in a couple of other categories as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so we go into the final corner. I want to say McGoy was leading. And I think Baglin was second, made the move. They kind of pushed wide, and Vega made the great over-under move. Beautiful. Set back, went to the inside, and essentially won the drag race to the line comfortably, getting to there first by 0.15 of a second over McGoy, who was able to hold on to that second spot, put Baglin in third. Cristia ended up working with Palacio, who, because of all that craziness, started 14th. And by the second half of the race was into the lead group and was just knifing his way forward, got to the bumper Cristia. That was the only time I ever saw people work together. Was when Cristia and Palacio got together. They got away from all the other guys and were able to get to 4th and 5th, but just not enough time to get up to the leaders by the end of the race. I
believe you talked to the Palacio crew, right? You want to come back to that after what happened? What they battled with throughout the week.
Well, I don't know exactly what they battled with.
Didn't I hear carburation? Somebody told me it was carburation.
They just said they didn't have the pace in qualifying. So, I assume it just, when you're starting that far back to 20, I think it was 24th in qualifying. Let me see here. 24th.
I heard it was carburation because like there are times when you're back at 24th where you have open racetrack. You look what Lucas Palacio was able to do in Sunday, starting where he did, further back 14th or wherever he started, and still was able to make these great moves like he normally would, and then pull away. Right? It it was more indicative of what we've seen throughout the year.
Because the pace was there. Cristia had fast lap of the race with a 51.5, and then Palacio did a 51.5, and that was the second to lap, or coming to the white flag. So when those two got hooked up, they were able to get away. So he obviously found the pace, but all that, again, nobody worked together up front. When you start back in 14th, that's what you want. Like he had to make up a gap, and was able to do that because of all the shuffling that they were doing early on. So, but certainly had the pace there at the end, just not early in the weekend.
So yeah, Vega, McGoy, Baglin, Cristia, Palacio, top 5. Great job for Palacio. He does get up to top 5. I think he was in 4th at the last lap. I think Cristia got by him on the final circuit to steal 4th back. Speaking of stealing, at least I won one class in today's debrief. I won this one.
You did. You got us on this one. And you can thank Cristia for that, because he is your one position correctly in the top 5. Because we all had 3 drivers in the top 5. You had Palacio, McGoy, Cristia. I had Palacio, McGoy, Vega, and then Nate had Cristia, Palacio, Vega. So we all had 3 drivers in the top 5. You were the only one who correctly picked one, and that was Max Cristia. So great debut for him on the Kart Republic. As he was working with Motaz Sport, they kind of went under the Trinity Karting Group tent this weekend, and then moving to the Kart Republic brand for at least for him, and I believe other driver as well.
So there you have it, folks. A big win for Royce Vega in the Mini Swift category. Good for him. Another break in the action. When we get back, we'll dive into the Micro Swift category. Welcome back, EKN Nation, to the debrief. Our first of 2 here for the Superkarts USA SuperNationals 26. Myself, Rob Howden, alongside David Cole. Factory Karts, the sponsor of our race report for this edition of the debrief. And we're going to go into Micro Swift. We talked about Mini having such a full field. Same went for Micro, and the racing here was tremendous as well. This was a big one, all told. Here's your headline. SKUSA Pro Tour champ holds off challenge for first SuperNationals triumph.
Yeah, again, this was a great category to watch all weekend long. Started out with Pasha Ali laying down fast lap of qualifying to be able to secure that spot, put in a 53.215 and cleared the field by over 0.3 of a second. So I think drafting in Micro Swift on a 1,400-foot straightaway is very key. Would you agree?
It was like Coda with a couple of DRS zones. Like there was like 2 DRS zones. I think the straightaway was so long.
So Parker Ives was in 2nd with Josh Bergman 3rd, Juan Diego Garciares in 4th, and Kate Casper rounding out the Fast 5. But it was actually Maxwell Macha, SKUSA Pro Tour champion, who was back in 13th after the qualifying session. So not necessarily the kind of position he wanted to be coming in as a number 1 plate holder, because again, he was the only one with number 1 all the way around. So that's a cool part. I do like that. And then we got into the heat races, and this is what we kind of predicted with Parker Ives up front. All 3 heat races. I want to say heat 1 and heat 2 were pretty comfortable victories, but heat number 3 was a little bit more of a challenge. Both in Heat 2 and Heat 3 at Bergman and Macha, who Macha was, again, coming up from P13, were able to kind of challenge them a little bit more in those 2 races. So we saw the speed definitely out of the Sodi karts with Bergman and Macha to be setting up for what we thought was going to be a pretty good main event. Eves was the pole sitter with Isaac Payne and the Parolin. He was pretty consistent through the heat races, a 2nd, 4th, and 4th. So he started on the outside of the front row. Macha had a 6th, 3rd, and 3rd to put him 3rd in the grid, with Pasha Ali dropping down to 4th. Pasha, again, we talked about pole sitters. They all kept slipping back here and there. So he had a 3rd, a 5th, and a 5th. And then you had Bergman and Liam I can never say it. Nachawati.
I think it's Nachawati.
Nachawati. Making up the 3rd row. So again, go into the main event. Parker Ives starting on the front row. We thought it was going to be again, a lot of people were talking about. Thought it was going to be a walkaway. It wasn't. We had a 4 driver.
I at least thought we were going to get like a couple drivers pull away. right? It was
Well, we did. We had
early,
a 4-driver pack because again,
Yeah.
you had 3 Sodi karts working together.
You
had
did.
Matcha, Bergman, and Pasha Ali all right there, keeping tabs with Parker Ives. So,
They were.
but it was really Matcha and Ives. Those were the only 2 leaders
Agreed.
in the race, the entire distance. A lead swap up here, a lead swap there. You know, if Matcha got slipped back, he had his wingmen. He had his wingmen to help him get back up to Parker. So there was a lot of that over the 20-lap race. I want to say Matcha was, I'm not exactly remembering how it finished, but I think Matcha had the lead or took the lead coming to the white flag and really was able to hold on as Ives was getting challenged from Bergman. I think that's the one thing I remember.
As I recall, Ives was sticking with them, but was kind of, they were through the 3 and 4. They were kind of challenging each other, and the gap broke up a little bit once that happened. And Bergman started going to work, really trying to get by. And that just, anytime you're in the challenge, like your P2 challenge spot, nobody's behind you, you're good. But the minute you're having to split your concentration, we talk a lot about that in the broadcast, right? The minute you're splitting, you can't focus totally forward. So yeah, you're right. Matcha was able to finally stretch away. And listen, I talked about that throughout, Thursday, Friday, Saturday from qualifying. Because the thing about Palacio and Matcha, your 2 top guys in those 2 categories, mini and micro, on the Pro Tour season, and neither of the guys were the top 10 in qualifying. Obviously, Palacio way back, but even Matcha, we all picked Matcha to be up front there, and he was just not there.
It's nothing forward, though. It's nothing unheard of, because when we used to have the SuperNationals as part of the Pro Tour, remember we used to have championship contenders not even make the main event and say X30 Pro or X30 Senior or other categories as well too. Even Tag Cadet, like some of the drivers. 2
of the best that one year, as Ryan Norberg and Brendan Jarsakrak. Both those guys were battling out for a Pro Tour championship, and they were nowhere. They were outside the top 15 for sure at that
Barely made it through the main event without the LCQ.
Yeah. It was nuts. It was crazy.
So that it's not unheard of. And again, because of the different racetrack, I mean, this in a micro, it's flat out for 25 seconds. I don't know how long it took to go down that straightaway, but they're flat out there, and you get off the gas here, you get off the gas here, and so it's a different. Again, it's simple, but it's a different mentality to race that racetrack, I think. And so
such a momentum track for them.
So some kids grasp to that. Some kids, they need it. You ask Matthew Waters, it took him a little bit. Again, the progression at a temporary circuit, because if you mess up, there's no wiggle room. So
think if you're a Masters driver with 26 years of experience like Matthew Waters, and you got to get used to the racetrack. And then you're a 8-year-old who's never driven a temporary circuit. That's why I always have so much respect for the kids. They're just out there banging around. But the ones that can really get it from 7 to 9 years of age, it's amazing to me. And the micro category as a whole did a great job keeping it clean, keeping it safe. Not a lot of crazy incidents. Nobody, just randomly driving off into the barriers for no reason. So again, you're always kind of worried about that, because as you said, it's, some of these kids, some of them probably even 7 years old, haven't quite turned 8 yet. So, So excellent job. Matcha with the win, almost a half a second, the victory over Bergman. Ives ends up in 3rd in that last lap battle coming to the line, all the stuff that happened to the line. Pasha Ali ends up in 4th. Overall, a great SuperNationals for Pasha. And then Juan Diego Garcia Arce ends up copying off the top 5. And real quick, talked to Pasha Ali and his family towards the end of Super Sunday. They had a brake disc rubbing that kind of slowed him at the end. As the top 3 kind of battled, he kind of lost a little bit of pace. So he could have been there, but again, you never know. That's Vegas, baby. So you can see when we're talking about these right now, our predictions. Obviously, it was myself, David, and Nate. Nate's not joining us tonight. He busted his ass the entire time at the SuperNationals. If you were there and saw him running back and forth, he and Betsy banging out content, videos, man, our social media content was fantastic. And of course, as soon as we land and get back home, I gave the boys Friday off. Nate's taking the whole Friday off. Nate's taking Friday off, but coming for the broadcast. And so we told Nate, dude, I know it's an 8 o'clock show. Just, dude, you're good. Enjoy your evening. Start your weekend early. Well deserved for sure for all the work they put in. So he should. I say this because he should be here to gloat right now, right? Because you gloated big time. You had 18 points in one of your races, and but I'm not surprised that you would gloat, David. It's in your character.
It's in my DNA.
It's in your it's in your DNA. Nate kicked our asses in this class. Woo! Like smackdown. 17 points for you. Were last, by the way.
I was. This was not again. I did get 3 in the top 5. You got 4 in the top 5.
I picked 4 of the top 5. Oh, how did I not win this?
It's a good program. It's good. But Nate laid it down. I mean, he got it the top 3 in the correct position.
In the correct
Macha,
order.
Bergman, Ives. So, and then he got Juan Diego Garciares in the 5th spot. So he had very similar to what I did in the master category. He did in this category.
Did he pick Garciares in the right spot? 4 drivers, all in the right spot?
Yes. So it's the same thing, but the problem was I went 1, 2, 3, 4. He went 1, 2, 3, 5.
There you go.
So he missed it.
Who did he have for 4th?
He had Zane Burgess, who, let me see what place. Zane was up there.
Yeah.
Zane was up there in the hunt throughout the weekend. I'm looking to see where he finished. No, I think he got shuffled back, so I don't see him up in the top 10.
You and Nate almost picking perfectly to have 4 drivers in the correct positions.
That's pretty wild.
That's pretty wild.
So Nate did a great job. He's he's been able to watch a lot of the cadet racing throughout the season. So he kind of very similar.
He didn't use the randomizer this year.
He didn't use it, and it certainly paid off. It did, because I think he doubled his score from last year as well too. Let me look at that. Hold on.
Yeah.
In total, he had 24 points last year. Yeah, he doubled his. Oh no, almost doubled it.
Yeah, pretty impressive, no doubt about it. So there you go. So Nate kicks our butt with that one there. We'll have a look when we get a little further on here.
That's great.
Where we end up with the predictions. I think this is it, right, Dave? One more break. When we come back, paddock pass. We put the paddock pass later on in the show, so that the guys, our guests, can come on and then get out. We'll look at our Constructors Championship for these 4 categories. We'll go predictions, and we'll wrap things up. And, of course, as always, the EKN Trackside Live calendar. Nothing for this year. It's all about 2024. Well, welcome back, folks. Final segment here of this edition of the Debrief. 2 of them back-to-back tonight, Thursday night prime time. Same thing tomorrow, Friday night prime time, 8 o'clock. You'll be able to, of course, watch any of them that you might have missed on YouTube. That's where they'll be living. So if you missed it, or if anybody missed it, they can go back and watch it on YouTube. Of course, we'll turn it into a podcast as well. Perfect for the commute to and from work. Let's jump into the paddock pass right now. Today, brought to you by Parolin USA. It all started in 1994 when former kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products. We run a factory team at all the major Superkarts USA, USPKS, and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2023 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior drivers, the 28mm Opportunity model for the cadet classes, and the Daytona 4-cycle chassis. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. All right, David, just first and foremost, coming out of the paddock pass, we had the paddock insider, by the way. If you didn't see that, have a look at that in our coverage. A lot of great stuff and kind of away from the track. Bottom line is, though, brand new lot. And for the first time in a while, a really unique new layout.
Yeah, it certainly was that, because it begins with the lot itself. And Superkarts USA was given this area of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway to utilize for the racetrack. Obviously, as we saw when we were there, they had a number of other different events going on. Obviously, inside the racetrack, I believe, is where they have all the Christmas lights as well, too, along with outside. So a lot of different stuff going on. Plus, leading up to the event, they had, I think, 2 weeks of drag racing going on. They had NHRA and then some other program there the week after. So a lot of stuff going on.
There was like an EDM concert a couple weeks before it, too. A huge, massive EDM concert.
I didn't even know about it. That should be at the same time we're there then. That would be great. So again, new lot. So kind of have to go with what you have. And SKUSA did that. and it was a completely different layout. And we continue to keep talking about it earlier in the show. The 1400 foot straightaway. I mean, that's the biggest factor of the racetrack, and how there was really only 7 turns. So all of them essentially 180, aside from the 2 S's that kind of helped set the racetrack to go back to the northeast side of the facility. But, physically, I think the roughest part was maybe that last corner where there was a number of different bumps. But physically, I don't think it was very demanding on a driver, because a lot of those that are already in shape, have already been racing 20, 25, 30 weekends out of the year. It wasn't a very, at least in practice, wasn't very challenging for them.
Dave, a lot of drivers we'll talk to, depending on what the track's like, they'll say there's no place to breathe. There's no place to rest on the racetrack, right? Like when we run the CKNA race at Newcastle, there's only that little short shoot. Yeah. There's really no time to break. Literally, you could have, chewed some gum and called a friend, called the Masters drivers, called a friend on the phone, drive that straightaway. Like you could literally all that time to kind of relax you could, again, physically, no. Mentally demanding, yes. And of course, the track adjustment, when we first got there, the kink was kind of turned into coming to turn number 1. There was a barrier on the outside, or a post on the outside. They had it fully covered with a barrier. Obviously, a lot of people walking the track for the first time. We're not happy with that. A lot of people, I think, talking to SKUSA officials about it. I know I went to SKUSA officials to chat about it as well. They really watched it, David, the first day to say, hey, listen, what are we going to do about this thing? Finally, they made a track adjustment, which really, like, they moved the apex of the kink way back. They changed the entry. In the end, although there was a couple of big impacts still, in the end, the ambulance never ran, and there was no red flags during any of the races. So it was overall, and it ended up being a pretty solid track, and the adjustment they made ended up being a success.
Yeah, it did. The revision going into turn 1 definitely helped the long term of the racetrack. Again, because we did see the issue in qualifying, but again, that was 4 minutes on the racetrack, and nobody was abiding by the yellow flag. So again, under the lights, a little bit crazy situation. So that was kind of a separate of its own. But the racetrack itself, again, they continue to listen, making sure there's gaps between the big barriers and the little barriers, so you have room to throw carts over. Corner workers did an amazing job getting carts out of the way and making sure drivers were in a safe area. So again, it was a unique, different racetrack. And again, like you said, I think more mentally than anything, again, because when you're going 95 miles an hour with barriers alongside of you, I mean, it kind of, and like Foray said, it makes you think, I just want to go home. I don't want anything to happen. Yeah. I just want to get home safely, and, we saw guys test it, certainly in practice. TJ Coyne was one of them who got drilled into the barriers going down the straightaway in the KA100 senior practice session, because again, you think you're going to, it's just lining it up to, you think you're going to be on the inside. Well, the driver's going to keep hugging the inside until he sets up for the corner. So there was a lot of, it was almost, it's road racing mentality and that side of things.
Agreed.
And very Modesto-like, because again, you think about it, in Modesto, this was all brand new to a lot of these drivers. Well, a lot of these drivers have been to the SuperNats. Well, they haven't been to the SuperNats at speeds like this. So you kind of have to understand, all right, is this 100% good passing spot? No. Or is this a 50%? Find your range of where you can pass, how you can set people up differently to be able to make a good pass and not be in the barriers halfway down the straightaway.
Yeah, and by the end of the weekend, obviously Super Sunday, people dialed that in. That's why the racing was so great, thrilling. Yeah. The first 3 races were all the KA Masters guys, and it literally set the tone for the rest of the day because the racing was so good. Now, away from the track, David, we'll figure out how you and I want to play with this, but SKUSA, I know that everybody's always talking about crack down on your rules. Well, they cracked down on the rules this year on a bunch of pre-tech stuff, which again, guys got DQ'd for not having enough bolts, like only having one bolt on,
nut
on a weight on your weight, one nut, and a lot of times you put a nylock nut, it's not going to go anywhere. What are your thoughts on that? Because they did get pretty aggressive.
I understand the ruling on that, but it's the severity of the penalty, I think. And I understand them trying to crack down on this, and, and how, because again, they want to make sure all the weights are numbered. Okay. That was one of the issues throughout the weekend. I get that. Okay. And I think they were telling people during the practice sessions, hey, make sure that's numbered. Hey, make sure that's numbered. I saw the tech officials doing that when I happened to go by the scales once in a while. So again, and it was a new thing too. That was not something that was in the SKUSA rule book until coming into SuperNationals. So it's new. It's a new process. And there's a lot of racers who've never even raced SKUSA. So a lot of them might not even know. So I think that was something they had to work in. I think because the weight or the nut was a DQ. I think that was the harshest penalty.
That's too much to me.
And I think, again, okay, if you're doing 4 positions for not having a number, why can't we do 10 or why can't we do 15? I think a full disqualification is not the way to go. I understand the reasoning for it. They're trying to make sure everybody's safe because, again, if the weight comes off at 95 pounds, does it really matter or 95 miles an hour? Does it really matter whose number is on it? It broke. There's a lot of failures that happen in motorsports. Sometimes it could be a broken, a seat. So
true enough. Yeah, the seat can just break, crack. Yep.
Yeah. So again, I don't like the nitpicking side of things on that side of it, but I understand the crackdown, again, trying to make it safe. You have me at that, but the severity of the penalties, I think, was a little bit too crazy for that, because again, there were people that were trying to cheat around it as well, but you shouldn't do that. But I don't know. I mean, Pro Tour, here's the way I look at it. If a driver can get disqualified for a non-compliant part or a tech item, and they can drop that as a drop race, that doesn't add up.
Here you go. Yeah, I know.
Are you allowing people to push the limit in terms of technology? Is that lower than
you can literally cheat? Safety? You can literally cheat on your engine and drop.
I didn't want to say that.
I'm just throwing out there. I'm just saying
push the limits.
But listen. That's literally the dichotomy. You can cheat on an engine or push the limit to the point where you get DQ'd technically from a race, but you're allowed to drop it. But if you don't have a second nut, you're DQ'd from a heat race.
Or for any race in the main event.
Whatever. I'm just thinking it doesn't make any sense to me. All right, listen, we can talk about this that's another topic. That's a round table
that we got to do.
Write that down for the round table discussion. Those are coming this year. Let's go into a more happy, at least for 4 groups of people. Constructors Championship. What chassis won of these 4 categories that we talked to?
So the first category we talked about, Master Shifter, a Kart scoring a victory. It's been a while. You think of David Yurka, probably one of the last Karts to win at the SuperNationals.
Andre Nicastro?
Oh, Andre, that was 20. I don't know. David Serra would know the year.
Is that 2012?
Or was it 2013? No, I see. I should pull my thing up. It was at the Rio. Yeah, I want to say 2010. I think that was 2010. Yeah, because 2013 was a rain year. That's the one where we played.
13 years since the Nitel Kart won?
I want to say.
David Yurka won per ICC, I think. You're right, that year.
But he won Tag Senior as well, too, I believe.
Did he really? Valiente won 3 of them in Formula C back in the day.
I'm waiting for my cheat sheet to pop up here.
We'll come back to that one. Cosmic, David, with a victory with Rawlson Performance Group and Matthew Waters.
Yeah, great pick there.
God, good one. Bennick, again, locked out the front row qualifying, locked out the front row in the main event, and was able to get the win in Mini with Royce Vega. And then SodiKart. Not only did they win with Maxwell Macha, David, they were like three
drivers in the top. Yeah,
and again,
pretty good.
Listen, that's another one. You got to go all the way back to, I believe, Andre Abbas. SodiKart.
Anthony Abbas.
Pardon me, Anthony Abbas. What year was that?
Okay, so let me first start with the Nicastro. That was 2010.
Okay.
Abbas last one in 2013. That was the rain. Okay. And so 13 is the 13 what we played on the radio today, or was it 12?
12.
12. So 12 had
posted
the
pictures of me and Verstappen and Leclerc.
Glad I had my little handheld camera for that.
They were good. Good. They were good things, Dave. All right, so that
it wasn't disposable. That would have been even better if it was a disposable camera.
One day I'll tell the story about the one time we actually used a disposable camera.
Oh, that'd be great.
For e-karting for Shifter Kart Illustrated.
Shifter Kart Illustrated, yeah.
You want to hear it?
Great, probably grid photos, right?
No, here's what happened. We
go through it. We got time.
We're at the SuperNationals.
Oh, Jesus.
No. The Monday of the SuperNationals, or the Sunday night, Paul Tracy decides he wants us to test the Paul Tracy kart on the Monday morning.
Okay.
Me, Mark Miller was there.
Yeah.
I think we were going to drive Allmendinger's kart.
Okay.
Well, Jeff Deskins, our good friend Jeff Deskins, the senior photographer for Shifter Kart Illustrated, went home. He drove home on Sunday night. Right? So we got on camera. Like, we got to take pictures of this thing. I literally bought a couple of because it was like last minute deal. So I think it's in I'm pretty sure it's in the magazine with
it's definitely
and the lighting was like, it was later in the day. The lighting light was going down. Super pro back then.
Not good.
Not good. All right, let's cap things off with the predictions.
Yeah, just to recap. Nate kicked our butts in Micro Swift with 17 points. Prob was the top driver in Mini Swift with only 5. I was able to secure the most points in KA100 Master. Only 3 points there.
Only 3. Yes, only 3.
But made up for it in Master Shifter with 18 total points in the category. So after those 4 categories, we'll give you a total. I'm leading the way at 27 points, Nate at 25, and Rob at 19. So
David's already done the script for tomorrow, so he already knows where we are, what's going on, and I'm not feeling like I'm going to have a bounce back because I don't think that I had anything close to a 17 or an 18. Listen, dude, we've been doing this for a long time, and for you and Nate almost to go perfect, we've never been close to anything like that.
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, like,
never close.
No,
it's not even close.
So to compare it, your total. Oh, see, I just changed it. Your total last year was 16 total for 10 classes.
Yeah,
so you just through the first 4 classes we've done, you're already above that. So that tells you how well we all did as a collective.
How many points did you have last year total?
I had 27. So
you have the same amount of points in 4 races. Yeah. As you did in 10 last year.
I'm telling you, it's amazing how great we did.
We did good this year, even though it wasn't Danny Formal. Although Danny and I will always have that.
I love we got to put the Pete Weber, like that video of, you know what I'm talking about, and put Danny's face on Pete Weber.
Yes. Who do you think you are?
I am.
That's happening for sure. All right. So let's wrap this thing up, folks. We have another one coming tomorrow, as we said, 8 o'clock again, Eastern time. Come and join us for another one. We'll go through the other 5 categories. Of course, the pro classes, X30 Junior, KA100 Junior, and Master Shifter, right? The 2 shifters.
No.
2 shifters,
KA100
KA100
did Master
Junior.
Shifter.
Oh, pardon me. Pro Shifter, X30 Senior.
X30 Senior, KA100 Senior, X30 Junior, KA100 Junior.
There you go.
5. So
those
all
are
the junior and senior classes, yes.
All right. Before we wrap things up, let's go EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar, brought to you by the Skip Barber Racing School. Are you looking for the next step in racing? Go from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Racing School. Skip Barber alumni are champions in every motorsports series, including Formula One, NASCAR, IMSA, and IndyCar. Get behind the wheel of a Skip Barber Formula 4 car featuring a 160 horsepower turbocharged engine. Our highly structured and competitive Skip Barber Formula Race Series is the perfect platform to start your racing career so you can fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. With equalized race cars and a focus on driver development, your driving skills will determine if you end up in victory lane. Learn more about the Skip Barber Racing School at skipbarber.com or call 866-932-1949. All right, Dave, bring her back. This is it. EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar. Nothing for the next 6 weeks. Press the reset button.
Catching up. Yeah, it's focusing on 2024. So we're going to wrap up 2023, especially when we get done with our second podcast tomorrow. And sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
Good. No. I'm just saying, get it out. Second podcast tomorrow. Yeah. We'll have some This Week in Karties. We'll get some more podcast stuff coming still before the end of the season. Just no more trackside. We'll get to kind of relax a little bit. But the first race will be January 12th to the 14th, second weekend in January. David now will be trackside at the Superkarts USA opener for the Winter Series. AMR Homestead Miami Motorplex, presented by MG Tires, I believe is named. And then a couple weeks later, we head west to the Challenge of the Americas, February 2nd to 4th opening round at the Musselman Honda Circuit in Tucson, Arizona. I love that racetrack. It's such a raceable track. So, Homestead and Tucson, David, firing things up for 2024.
Yeah, very similar to what we've done in the past couple of years, and excited to start planning and sorting out the details for that, as I'm sure a lot of the teams are. Once they get through this week, next week is starting planning on those programs.
Your 20th year with ekartingnews.com. 20th year.
It'll be my 20th season. Yes.
20th season. Yeah. We'll have to make some t-shirts for that. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. We can do that. Like the old concert tour shirts. Yeah. So all the races I'm going to go to, all the races I'll beat you at. Yeah.
Wow. That'll be a small t-shirt.
It will be.
And 100% we'll get the 20-year Yeti Cup or whatever, Stanley Cup for you. We'll get it what do you call it? Laser etched.
Very nice. It would be very nice to take to the racetrack.
Exactly that. Yeah, for some rum and cokes. All right, folks, there you go. Done and dusted. Just over an hour and a half time here on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Back again for a primetime show tomorrow. We'll go pro classes and, of course, the junior categories as well, and then roll right through. There's lots to talk about. David's got some guests lined up for that one as well. Any teasers yet, David, or are we a little fine-tuning?
Still working. I got one that's can be, depending on travel situation.
It'd be nice to get Formal, but I think he's in Italy right now.
Yeah, I don't want to bug him.
He won today, by the way. Him and Marcelli won.
Yeah. So
they won the Super Trofeo, or at least one of the deals over there.
So he So I still have to kind of sort out the a couple more guests. So we'll see.
We do this on the fly, folks. We do it on the fly.
Not a lot of time today, too. So.
No, there's not a lot of time. Exactly. Like you said, dude. Can you imagine if this was literally Thanksgiving? We would have either had to jam this into Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah.
The following week. Could have been.
They would have been probably the following week.
We're
getting old. We're getting old.
Dude, trust me. I feel it. Every morning in Las Vegas.
We're not youthful like Mike Smith, right? And Henry Baudet. So they were just ready to go every morning.
They were. What are you guys doing?
Calm down.
Back down. All right. Again, big thank you to Acceleration Kart Racing. I'll say this right now. They've been with us, David, your entire duration with ekartingnews.com, because they were on the website when I bought it. They were on the website, and they have been with us. Curtis and Brooke have been with us the entire time. So I shout out to them right now. Again, awesome to have.
Curtis was there. Not sure if you saw him. I said hi to him. He was in the grandstand. So he was in the grandstands. I want to say Friday, and literally he was standing there. And he didn't say hello to you. I saw him, so I said hi.
Podium finisher at the very first SuperNationals, by the way.
There you go. Curtis.
Whatever. There was two.
Wasn't a headline.
There was two classes there. Two 125 classes. There.
Gotcha.
I'll have to go back in my notes and look at that. But yeah, anyways, folks, we're done. Thank you very much. Big shout out to the guys from Acceleration Kart Racing. Back at 8:00 tomorrow. This will be a podcast. David will get this up rolling sometime next week. He gets to have Friday off, and then the next following week, of course, Thanksgiving. The boys are taking those days off as well. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Make sure to come back. It's interactive. If you got questions, comments, make sure you bring them. Again, big thank you to Acceleration Kart Racing, everybody who supports ekartingnews.com. It was a fantastic time at the SuperNationals. Again, we're looking forward to our first race, the SKUSA Winter Series in January, but we'll cap off this year's SuperNats with one more debrief tomorrow evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of this guy, David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.